Blog Talk Radio.
Choices, decisions, frustrations, and pain. Knowing I'm going to forget her someday. While I still can, I'll challenge all my loved ones, every friend, to look inside their hearts and understand that I will love them. I will love them while I still can.
Well, welcome everyone to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm the host and founder, Lori LeBay, and I'm thrilled to death that you can be with us today. Once again, we have a fabulous show lined up for you. But before we get started, since we always are getting new listeners to our program, I like people to know a little bit about us and, what Alzheimer Speaks is about. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to highlight that, and then we'll get rolling into the show. Alzheimer Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. We believe by removing fear and joining forces and sharing knowledge and just having these everyday conversations about life with dementia, that we can remove the stigmas and help people live with the disease, not as it. Together, we can help everyone understand the true needs that go with this disease and how disabling it can be, not only to the person diagnosed, but to their family and loved ones as well. At our core, we truly believe collaboration is the key to winning the battle against dementia. And I know that all of your clicks, all of your likes, all of your shares have had a huge impact. So I encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to please like us on the homepage and go ahead and tweet about us and share us, because it's those small little clicks that make a huge difference in terms of getting the word out. That's a huge way that you can be an advocate. And we know it's working because ShareCare and Dr. Oz recognized Alzheimer Speaks as the #1 influencer online for Alzheimer's. And again, that would not happen without your continued support. So thank you all so much for participating. Here on the program, we really like to raise awareness by giving voice to all. And so we interview all types of people from all around the world, those actually diagnosed and living with the disease, family members, professional care providers, authors, musicians, directors, researchers, little advocates. Anybody can be on the show. What I'm looking for is stories to tell and a difference that you can make by sharing what you have learned and what your passion is about improving our dementia care culture. So the easiest way to contact me would just be to go to alzheimersspeaks.com. And there you can just push the contact button and shoot me a message. On our main website, you'll not only have access to the radio show, but our blog, the YouTube channels, Dementia Chats, which are webinars that we do. In fact, we'll be doing one this afternoon, which will be 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, and noon Pacific Time. And that is where it's a free webinar where we interview people with dementia. And we have a wonderful, honest conversation regarding all different types of topics. So I would love for you to go ahead and join us there. I will put in the chat box a little later the URL to join that conversation. Also, if you're listening either on your computer or by phone, you can participate in the conversation while we're live. You can utilize your chat box if you'd like and send a comment or a question, or you can always call in live to the show at 714-364-4757. That's 714-364-4757. And again, I always like to highlight, if you're looking for support, you can contact the Alzheimer's Disease International Organization, and you can just go ahead and Google that, or you can find that on the website as well. But there you'll find where all the Alzheimer's associations are throughout the world, so that you can get hooked up and connected in your own neighborhood. And then I'd also like to mention Alzheimer's Studies. If you're looking for a trial, they've got a real interesting trial right now on tau that they're looking for clients for, and you can just go to www.alzheimersstudies.com for more information there. And then my friends, of course, at Coral Health with Music First. If you didn't hear the program, and information that we did, there's one coming up, but I've mentioned them several times, and they just have a great ability to let you access music and faith-based sermons and music combination as well from their site. They've also rolled out a brand new app, so it's portable, and they're willing to give everybody 3 hours of free time on that to test it out. So that's all for my notices right now. So let me go ahead and roll into our guests. I think this will be a really interesting conversation about inflammation and dementia. And for me personally, I'm really interested in this because my mom battled with arthritis for a long, long time. And, it'll be really interesting to see what they have to say. There's been a lot of talk on this, and I'm interested for this conversation to flow. I'm going to first introduce Sharon Olsen, who actually is a cohort of mine. She lives in Minneapolis in Minnesota. We have not met, but it's interesting when I get somebody in my own backyard. Her background is education in communications and journalism, and she's had over 10 years' experience in the medical field and alternative medicine. She's the author of Improve Your Health with Minerals, and she is the former editor of the CIRA, which is a holistic newsletter. She's currently working on her second book, which sounds really interesting, on environmental illnesses, and she's planning on getting her certification as a holistic nutritionist. So welcome, Sharon. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Lori.
Well, great. Glad to have you on the show. Let me go ahead and introduce Hanne, and then we will go from there. Hanne Hojsted was born in Denmark, and she studied advanced Iridologist under Dr. Bernard Jensen, and she, which was in Los Angeles, and she has been practicing since 1989. In 1999, she continued her education as a naturopath doctor out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and for 4 years, she had her own daily radio broadcast on nutrition and was a weekly television guest on the Danny Burden talk show. Hanne is the author of The Miracle Journey of Love, which is based on her true life story. So I want to welcome Hanne to the show. How are you doing today, Hanne?
Fine. Thank you, Lori, and thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about doing the show with you and Sharon.
Well, great. And I have to ask, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yeah, Hanne Hojsted, or just Hanne is probably easier.
Okay, sounds good. Easy is always good for me. I like easy.
Yes.
So great.
Exactly,
well,
yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, to get started here, I'm going to point this first question to Sharon, because I think we have to start with the basics, and that is, what exactly is inflammation in the body?
Okay, well, inflammation is actually the body's response or your defense system to infection or trauma. And there's two types of inflammation. You have your acute inflammation, such as when you cut your finger or you have a burn or you have an allergic reaction. And these are normal responses of the immune system to this infection or trauma. And in order to survive it, we need to help us determine whether it's friend or foe. So our real concern is not the response to the immediate injury or infection. It's actually to chronic inflammation that destroys our organs slowly and its ability to function, and it optionally leads to chronic disease and rapid aging. So the problem starts when it happens in a dangerous area of the body, such as your coronary arteries, and our defense system runs out of control. So what few people understand is that chronic or hidden inflammation is the root cause of all diseases. And conditions like heart disease, dementia, obesity, diabetes, depression, cancer, and so on are considered part of this from inflammation. So some of the common treatments for such as acute problems is the use of anti-inflammatory drugs such as your ibuprofen, aspirin, and even prednisone. But these actually interfere with the body's immune system and can lead to serious and deadly side effects. So what we need to do is identify the causes of inflammation and help our body's natural immune system balance through your diet, exercise, stress management. Look for hidden food allergies and toxins in our environment.
Okay, and where would arthritis fall in that? Because my understanding was arthritis is inflammatory. Is that correct?
Yes, all of it is
okay.
Part of your inflammation in your joints and everything. It goes into the tissues and that.
Yeah, because I know for my mom, and for those listeners who are new, my mom has had memory problems for 30 years. And so she started in her mid-50s. She's 85 now and in her end stages. But she used to just, live on Tylenol and Motrin and, and that's what the doctors kept prescribing, over and over for the pain for her. And, now in her end stages, the only thing that really keeps her comfortable is oxycodone, which, is not a good drug to be on, but she's also in her end stages, and it's about comfort, at this point. So I'm like I said, very, very interested in this discussion. I know that there will be a lot of controversy, and there'll be some people that probably will disagree, and I think that that's fine. I think that's the point of having a discussion, is to get alternatives and be able to assess what works and what doesn't. The next question I would like to ask, and again, I'll point this one to Sharon, but first I should go back to Hanne. Hanne, was there anything that you wanted to add to Sharon's kind of definition of inflammation?
No, basically, absolutely everything. I agree with what Sharon mentioned. And, of course, a lot of people, when you talk about arthritis, pain is really inflammation. So if we can get rid of the inflammation, we can get rid of the pain. So that's what arthritis is. It is inflammation.
Okay. So next question. Can you tell us about other factors that kind of play in the role of Alzheimer's disease, Sharon?
Okay. Well, I should mention that a study was done just last year by some scientists in Iceland, and they've actually identified a new gene variant that seems to strongly raise the risk for Alzheimer's disease. And it's already been tied to a couple other forms of dementia. And this gene actually helps the immune system control inflammation in the brain, and it also clears the sticky deposits out that are part of the disease. So any mutations in the gene can impair these tasks. And I believe there was out of the study, there was 2% of the people that they did study had Alzheimer's had this mutation, mutated gene. So treatments to restore the gene's function and fight this inflammation may help on that. Now, there's other factors such as toxins in our foods, our environment, You've got mercury, pesticides, allergens, mold. All of those play a key role in our health. And of course, there's the hereditary factor. If it's in your genes. And in addition, there was a new research done by an institute in Stockholm that shows that people that are pre-diabetic have been shown to greatly increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. So pre-diabetes is associated with higher blood sugar levels. So a person that has high cholesterol or high blood pressure or that is obese has a 600% more chance to lose healthy brain function and be diagnosed with Alzheimer's than people who maintain a healthy weight and healthy diet.
Wow. Those are some major statistics that really can't be ignored. I mean, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Hanne, anything else that you would like to add in terms of, factors that come into play with dementia and Alzheimer's disease?
Well, other than the statistic, which I'm sure we know that actually Alzheimer's disease is actually currently at epidemic proportion, because actually about 5.4 million Americans, which is including 1 in 8 people of the age of 65 and over, are actually living with Alzheimer's disease. And the kind of scary part is, not that I always like to do positive things, but we also have to realize fact that by 2050, this is expected to jump up to 16 million within the next 20 years. So it's something that we really, really have to, do anything we can. I have, of all the education that I do and teach people, no matter what the illness is, Alzheimer's, cancer, whatever, I always say the body is designed to heal itself if it is given an opportunity to do so. And, of course, we are the opportunity. That's why the knowledge and wisdom is essential. And I always teach people, if you have been diagnosed with whatever, in this case we're talking about Alzheimer's, you or your family need to absolutely be an expert in that. It's great to listen to programs, to read, but people need to really educate themselves and really, what can I find out? Because there are absolutely things, for instance, like vitamin, a simple thing like vitamin B can actually help protect against Alzheimer's. I find that's amazing. And I will later on probably talk about some of the products that a person can try, whether it's foods or supplements, and I can let you know about that later.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, my next question actually rolls into the importance of diet in controlling, inflammation. And, I know for myself, I am so ignorant about what I put in my body and food, and it almost scares me how dumb I am on this stuff, that I have not taken the time to learn. And I see so many of my friends having food allergies that they're finding now that have been causing so many other illnesses, and all of a sudden the gluten-free is so popular, and I mean it's absolutely endless. And they're all getting much more educated in terms of what we're putting in our body, and understanding that so much of even what we perceive as being healthy has maybe been mutated to be better. It's been rigged, so it's bigger and it's better, and it isn't what it used to be, 50 years ago. And so I'm really interested to hear how diet can really have an effect on the body. And Hanne, I'm going to let you go ahead and start on this one.
Okay. I think that we had talked a little bit earlier, and I think that Sharon was going to talk a little bit more about maybe the diet, and I was going to go in a little bit more to the supplement. So
okay.
Would that be okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can talk about a little bit about the foods, and you can add to it, Hanne.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so.
Why do we do that?
Okay.
Go ahead,
well,
Sharon.
All right. Well, some of the things that we want to choose in foods is you want to make sure you eat unprocessed, unrefined, your whole fresh foods, nothing that's got a lot of sugar or trans fats in it. And I always say to avoid anything that's got artificial dyes, preservatives, your colorings, all that. So you really have to watch those. Even artificial sweeteners can affect us from what their studies that they've been talking about. But some of the power foods that we want to look is for stuff that has, or foods that have traces of, may have traces of metals in them, but no trans fats. So the fruits and your veggies are going to be a priority. You want to know because those fight Alzheimer's, especially pomegranates, your wild blueberries, apples, your green leafy vegetables, such as broccoli and spinach. Any of your berries, red, purple, blue berries and everything, they all have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. And then you've got your veggies that are garlic, onions, horseradish. They all contain powerful anti-inflammatory compounds such as your allicin and quercetin. And then green tea, of course, everybody's probably familiar with green tea. That's has anti-inflammatory substances in the body. And then the new nutrient is cinnamon that they're talking about. And then we've got legumes and, your whole grain, rices, oatmeal, amaranth, all of those are good things to eat. Make sure you are getting enough antioxidants. So as we mentioned before, eating fruits and vegetables is your best way to fight free radicals. Chocolate and vitamin E and C are also other antioxidants that are important for defending against Alzheimer's. And they've actually done a study on this, antioxidants in strawberries, and they found that it improves your memory and protects the brain from the onset of Alzheimer's. And then, as mentioned previously, we've probably all watched the Dr. Oz show. There was a Dr. Neil Barnard that was on there that talked about cutting back on your meats and your dairy products because there's metals in some of these foods and high saturated fats and so on. And I don't know if you're aware of, but a combination of high saturated fats and metals in your foods can actually add 19 years of cognitive decline to a person's body. So that's important to remember. And then, of course, your omega-3 oils is really important. You can get that from flax or hemp. You can take fish oil supplements, which a lot of people do, but you have to make sure that's a good source, and Hanne can probably talk a little bit more about that. But it does have mercury toxicity in that, which causes Alzheimer's. And fish only has 15 to 30% of good fats or omega-3s in it. All the rest of the fats that are in fish, 70% are bad. So you want to avoid fats that are high in trans fatty acids, which includes, of course, your processed foods, your chips, your cookies, and so on, anything that contains the words hydrogenated oil in it. And there's a difference. Omega-6 are actually fatty acids. They come from plant oils such as sunflower, safflower, corn, cottonseed, and then you see that a lot in your processed foods, and that's because they don't go bad. It's for shelf life mostly in your stores. And then lastly, I'd like to talk about your healthy monounsaturated fats, which are walnuts, your ground flax seeds, and all that. They actually lower inflammation throughout your body, and your blood vessel inflammation keeps that in order. And medical studies have actually shown that your crunchy nuts and seeds can lower levels of your two inflammatory markers, which is your C-reactive protein and interleukin-6. And Hanne, do you have anything you want to talk about the C-reactive protein test?
Yeah, I actually mentioned that to many people. I think it's such an important test to have done, particularly so many people are concerned about their cholesterol. You can have it done, and basically you want the reading to be between 0 and 1, not higher than 1. And I have spoken to many people who their reading is 12, 15, 20 or more. That means the higher the reading, the more inflammation in the body. So it's just another way to, if you don't know how much inflammation you have, I would say have that C-reactive protein test done. It's well worth it. There's something about knowing exactly how much inflammation you have in your body. So that is very, very important.
What's that called again? The C-WAC?
C-reactive protein. CRP. Yep. Mm-hmm.
CRP.
It's a blood test that you can have done. Yeah. I might also want to add, you mentioned a couple of things, Sharon. For instance, mercury. Now, I'm from Europe, and if, let's say, you took a trip, anyone take a trip to Europe, and let's say for some reason you needed to go to the dentist, and if that dentist, I'm particularly talking about Sweden, and if he put mercury in your tooth, he could actually be arrested. So for doing that, because it's considered a crime to put mercury in the teeth. So I find that kind of interesting. They should have the same thing here, but I don't know when that's going to happen. The other thing is I like to add that coconut oil, 1 to 2 tablespoons daily, is now used for prevention of Alzheimer's disease, and it also helps for pain and just another extra for energy. And it's everybody wants to get rid of quote belly fat, and that's just another reason to take coconut oil, but particularly for Alzheimer's. A lot of people are taking that as a prevention.
You know, it's interesting because there's, so many of these natural ways have really been poo-pooed for years, and people have discounted them. And, I still hear people today, really trying to discount the coconut oil, but I hear so many more people and people that I know who are using it, who really feel that there's a difference in their body. That in turmeric. We're hearing a lot more about turmeric, which is a spice, and it's very, very interesting, and it makes a lot of sense that our bodies are a machine, and so what we feed it is going to affect it. I found it very interesting too, Sharon. You had mentioned the Dr. Oz show with Dr. Bernard on. And I watched that show. In fact, I think it was just on the other day. So if you have Infinity, you can probably replay it or whatever. But he was shocked on the show when, he was talking about fish and that, he really doesn't eat much fish either. And I remember, if my memory serves me right, even Dr. Oz says, that's what I tell people to eat all the time. I can't believe this, what he was hearing. And he was very surprised as well at the amounts of metal in our different foods and how they've been, how so much of our food has been, manipulated in terms of, so that people, farmers can get a better price and, processors and things all the way, down the line. And it's just very, very interesting. And I think it's something we all have to pay much more attention to, myself included. And I have to admit that it's difficult for me because a lot of the jargon goes over my head because there is a lot of just jargon that you have to get used to. It's like a whole new language, and finding out that you can't really trust the labels on the food packages. I think, Sharon, you had mentioned something about whole grain. And what is the proper verbiage out there? Because there's a lot of purposely misbranding going on out there, so it looks like it's healthy, like with a lot of the snack bars and stuff, and it really isn't. For us, some of the
labels too, they talk about your wheat or whatever in there, and it's actually bleached white flour that they are using in a lot of our products instead of your whole grain wheats that we talked about. But one other thing he mentioned too was your zinc, iron, copper, that so many people have these in their vitamins or are taking extra supplements, which is he felt was dangerous because it could really affect your brain and that. And then cinnamon that I mentioned too is a new thing that they're studying that's holding promise for delaying or actually mitigating the effects of Alzheimer's disease. So that's something new that they're trying.
Yeah,
I actually have a little information on that. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Hannah.
No, what I was just going to say, just kind of going back to with the fish, mercury. One of the best things is really when you have your omega-3, whether you get it from flax, which of course is a flour, or the fish. But if you choose to have sardines or mackerel or anchovies, these are very small fish, and there's less mercury than if you have, for instance, salmon. So it's much, much better to do that. And also, when you do have salmon, you need to make sure that you do not have the farm salmon, because they've actually found that those salmons get heart attacks, which means you can't swim up the river, and that's just a whole different thing. So I'm not in the fish industry, but it's just really something to think about. So it's better we eat less and eat the healthy stuff. It is more expensive, but there's just so many things that we have to be aware of. So things are not the way they were 100 years ago. Everything is fast manufactured, mass manufactured, and there's all these extra ingredients in there that our body is not able to handle. And I believe, therefore, there are so many illnesses, and certainly we're talking about Alzheimer's, aluminum, any of those type of things is so dangerous. Really, it is. So,
I think part of the big problem is that over the years, how we're processing foods. We're adding more chemicals in our ground, our environment. We've got all this, everything in the air, oil spilled in our waters and everything. All this is affecting our chain of foods all the way down the line. And as you mentioned, Hanne, about how Alzheimer's is increasing so badly, you've got to take a look at our environment. And people will eat regular foods, and they should be eating organic fruits and vegetables especially, because if there's so much chemicals on these foods. And people will say to me, well, it doesn't bother me. I can eat them fine. Well, maybe not now, but it will down the line as you get older.
Exactly. Just a word about the turmeric you were talking about. Some say turmeric or curcumin. It's basically the same thing. But anyway, new studies are actually showing amazing promises for turmeric combined with vitamin D in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. And actually, this combination has been shown to help reduce amyloid plaque. Again, this is actually major development in Alzheimer's disease in the brain. So I feel everyone should really take that every day. People from India, for instance, do not really have all the diseases that they have in America, North America, because they cook with all their meals. They have turmeric. And it's something that we can really learn. I've spoken to several people from India, and they said, no, we don't have those diseases. Until they take the American lifestyle, then they have the same diseases. But I think that's something everyone should take for inflammation, for prevention of Alzheimer's, even if you have Alzheimer's. Let me see here. The animal, they actually did an animal. Now, this is not everybody particularly want to go on that, but animal experiment on curcumin was found to increase the amyloid plaque clearance. So in other words, it got rid of it, and in the brain. So it actually said that it's better than 4. The curcumin is better than 4 of the top pharmaceutical drugs for Alzheimer's disease, all in just 4 days. This is really something to think about. And that's a study that was done, so I'm just going by that. But I know I take turmeric, and I know it's a great thing for inflammation. So I think that should be in everybody's cabinet to take every day.
Another thing, Hanne, too, is probiotics. We should talk about it and how that improves and balances your bacteria and reduces inflammation.
Right, because actually all of us should have about 3.5 pounds of friendly bacteria in our gut. And if we don't, that means our immune system goes way down. So, that's a very good point. We should have that. And another thing, I tell that again to everybody, to my clients, it is essential to be alkalized. Like a swimming pool, 7.0, well, we should be 7.2. For instance, there's a book that's called Alkalize or Die. That's kind of right to the point. But if our body is alkalized, opposite of being acidic, cancer, for instance, cannot survive in an alkalized body. So wouldn't it make sense that we all make sure that we become alkalized? How do we become alkalized? Is through greens. All the greens, foods, we need to eat that much more than the fruit. Fruit is great. It tastes good. But vegetables is essential to have. So we say if you are green inside, you are clean inside. So, again, something to think about.
Well, that's an easy phrase to remember.
Yeah, if you're green inside, you're clean inside, yeah. And, of course, I always have a tendency, and I promise you I won't do that, but I get so excited about talking about the colon. I won't do that because this is not a colon show, but it's just so important. Colon cancer is the second cause of death in the United States. Stress is still the number one. But we're talking about Alzheimer's, so we might want to stay with that. Did you want me, Lord, to just mention a few things that there are essential for Alzheimer's as far as supplements, or
yes,
did you not want to go there yet?
Nope. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. I'll just kind of go very brief over some of them because, of course, just the highlights. So L-carnosine, which is an amino acid, is a very powerful antioxidant. And carnosine is known to prevent the formation of amyloid plaque, as I was talking about before, in the brain. So it's a process that's delivered to actually lead to Alzheimer's disease. So this person would take one capsule a day, which is usually 500 milligrams on an empty stomach. So L-carnosine, not carnitine, carnosine, C-A-R-N-O-S-I-N-E. There's another thing that's very essential. It's called acetylcholine. It's probably the number one supplement that a person should take if they have Alzheimer's or even prevention. And I'm always for prevention. Don't wait till something happens. Prevent it. And so that would be 500 milligrams 3 times a day. And because deficiency in acetyl, and I should just spell that A-C-E-T-Y-L, and then C-H-O-L-I-N-E, acetylcholine, deficiency has been linked to a possible cause of dementia.
Okay. I have a question, Hanne, on this. I'm a little nervous about giving out, amounts people should take because I'm just a little uncomfortable with that.
That's fine.
My guess, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would think that they should talk to, a nutritionist or, something that could really analyze their situation. And I would hate for someone to take this as medical advice because that's not what we're about.
No, this is not medical advice. I am actually a naturopathic doctor, but no, that's okay. I don't have any problem with that. That's fine.
Okay.
We will just
I think it's good to talk about these things and what they can do, but I just get a little nervous because people's weight and size and other things could complicate things.
Sure.
I would think. I'm not a doctor either with
that's
that.
Fine.
And my understanding is, and maybe I'm wrong, and please correct me if I am, but that even holistic medicines, combined with other things, can have side effects, and so it's important to kind of look at the total picture of what people are on.
Oh, yeah, particularly, matter of fact, I'm glad you brought this up because, for instance, like when people come to me and the majority of people come, they want to lose weight. That's kind of seems to be an epidemic. And the first thing I will ask a person, are you on any medications? And I had just the other day a person said, yeah, I'm on 1,000. Well, she was probably exaggerating, but I said, well, you know what? There's no way you want to take this because most of these things have herbs in them, and the herbs will interfere with the medication. And speaking of medication, if a person takes 3 medications or more, there's already a side effect usually just by even that. So I always tell a person, go to the pharmacist, even if you don't go to the doctor, ask, say, this is a medication I'm on, can I take these things? So, yeah, you have to be very, very careful if you take medication.
Okay.
And particularly herbs. Yeah. If you take vitamins, minerals and enzymes, and foods, of course, that's fine. But once you go into herbs, you have to be very careful if you're on medications.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's good to know. You can go ahead and continue, because I'm really interested in this, and I think our listeners are as well.
Sure. So I mentioned the first one, acetylcholine. So there is another one called acetylcarnitine, which we have to use the word may, of course, enhance brain metabolism and actually slows down deterioration of memory and reduces the production of free radical. There's another mineral is boron. Again, a person has to actually be very careful not to take too much of that. One of my all-time favorite, I don't know if you're familiar with this, called coenzyme Q10, which is known to increase oxygen of the cells and is involved in the generation of cellular energy. And again, caution with folic acid. But lecithin, I always said when I used to do my radio show, my own, and I would always say the rich people take phosphatidylserine and the not so rich people take lecithin. And we're talking about, again, to take a supplement. This is amazing for the brain. It's just lecithin is not as expensive as phosphatidylserine.
Okay.
Beet juice, actually, I don't know if people know that, but as known to sharpen the memory and focus just basically by taking 1 glass of pure beet juice, because it increases blood flow to the brain and also helps with mental fatigue and focus and alertness. So that's a good way. It's supposed to start within 25 minutes, according to the people who write about this. So I think that's an important thing. There are so many, many, many things, and I don't know how many things you want me to mention, but I just feel to start with the essential and the food, always the food. Whenever I recommend things, I don't recommend supplements first. I always recommend the food. Get all the nutrients that you can get for the food. That's why it's called supplement. It's not your main diet. The supplement is not your main diet. The food is the main thing. The supplementation is adding to what is not in the food.
Hannah, can you give us an example, maybe a couple of examples of how you would like someone to eat? So, in the U.S., most people eat 3 meals a day, but I know in other parts of the country, and even like in our nursing homes and stuff now, they're eating 5 or 6 smaller meals a day. What do you recommend, or do you think that has an effect in terms of the amounts that we eat and the time frames?
Yes, I'll be happy to answer that. First of all, the correct answer would be the 6 small meals. And that's mainly because of the blood sugar, okay? So 6 small meals is the ideal thing. And I believe that everyone should get rid of the microwave oven and get a juicer. You don't have to spend a lot of money on a juicer. Get an inexpensive one. And I can tell you what my recipe is. And this is amazing if you will do it. Here it is. Carrot, celery, cucumber, beet, parsley, apple, ginger, and then you squeeze fresh lemon. You should always have fresh lemon, at least 1 fresh lemon every day, because it alkalizes your body and it gives you energy. But that juice, if a person would have that, no matter if they have Alzheimer's or any other disease, you would be amazed how your body can totally heal itself. And that
can you say those items again? I'm trying to write them all down and I couldn't get them.
Sure. Okay. Carrot, celery, cucumber, beet, parsley, apple, ginger, and once you have done this, then you just squeeze fresh lemon in it, stir it, and you have to drink it immediately. If you have made too much, don't bother to put it in the refrigerator and say, I will save it for later. you can throw it out and you wasted that money. Then you learn from next time, no, I have to juice less. You learn that after a while, depending on the better juicer you have, the more there would be extracted from the fruits. And, of course, the less you have to use. So you have to just kind of get used to that. But this is amazing. This is actually healer. I can tell you that this gentleman who had a large tumor on his colon, and he went to the extent, most people could not do that, but he was serious, and he went to the extent of that's all he had 3 times a day. And after 9 months, that tumor fell off the colon. It fell. I mean, it was a huge tumor, and the man was totally healed. And so, on foods we can make claims. On supplements we can't. But
I wanted to jump in here, Hanne, too. They were talking about, you were talking about lemons, and they usually recommend that you drink a warm glass of warm water with a lemon in it every morning for helping to get your system going and detoxifying.
Exactly, and it's for the liver because, see, our liver weighs only 3.5 pounds, so everything that we eat and drink have to filter through the liver. It's kind of, I really feel everybody, it should be a law. We should all know our body. If we really could see, I always say God made us perfect. Maybe if I could have added one thing, a little push button where we could just see what's really going on in that body. But God probably knew that was too scary, so they didn't have it.
Well, and our liver does so many different functions, too, besides detoxifying and everything. So it's important that you have a clean liver and that you detoxify that liver. So.
But I think the good news, I always, like I said, I had mentioned that earlier, that our body, and I'll say that slowly, our body is designed by God to heal itself if it's given opportunity to do so. So if you have the juice, I don't care if the name is Alzheimer's, a person does not have to live with that. You can totally change it around. But it does take not just wishing it, you have to do something about it, okay? And so that's why, like I said, a lot of people have a juicer, but it's either underneath the counter or in Idaho or somewhere else because it's too much work. Because you have to juice this, and then you have to clean it. Well, you know what? You're worth it. So you can probably tell in my voice I have a passion about that because I have a passion about people getting well, but it also takes that effort to do that. And, foods are so expensive, but I think most people can afford to buy those items. And even if you want to do it just once, I'm not saying a person needs to do that 3 times a day, but at least once every day, you would be absolutely amazed. That I can promise you.
Well, and I think that is part of the problem, too, is, we've gotten to be such a fast-paced society, and it's so easy to just run through McDonald's or Burger King or, or even Subway. I mean, there's still a lot of additives in any of those. There has to be. In order for them to be able to maintain their freshness for as long as they do. And, we have gotten so busy and so fast-paced. I do think that a lot of us have equipment tucked in the cupboards way in the back, and we tried it for a while, and then we just couldn't break our routine. To make ourselves a priority. It's kind of like exercise, you have to make yourself a priority to get that done. Any suggestions to shift that mindset that we have? And Sharon, I'll throw this to you first.
Well, for one thing, we were talking, like I said, again, I want to talk a little bit about the liver because I think it's really important. So anytime you're eating all those fast foods, your over-processed foods, that's really putting, in exposing you to environmental pollutants, you're really putting a lot of stress on your liver, which is already overworked and overloaded. So it can't process the toxins and all your fats and then everything in an efficient way, and that helps clean the liver, and stimulates its ability to detoxify. And, of course, anytime you're backed up or you're toxic, that's going to cause more inflammation in your body. So, you can eat, Hanne mentioned, you were talking about the turmeric, your garlic, grapefruit, your beets, green tea, all of that stuff is very good for helping detoxify, your liver. But it's also, important that people make sure that they're have control their stress. Your lack of exercise is also contributes to all of this. All your allergies in your foods and your hidden toxins. We talked about the mercury, your pesticides, molds, all of that. So all that's going to have an effect on your body and become more, inflamed.
Yeah, definitely. I just, I wish there was more education on all of this. I look at what I was taught in school, and it really had nothing to do with anything. It was basic home ec, but it really, and back then, there probably weren't all the additives. I'll say that as well, compared to what there is today. But I think it's something that really needs to change. I was talking with someone the other day, and I found this really interesting. And they were talking about gardening and the whole therapeutic value of being able to garden and understand the importance and the respect of food and so forth. And the conversation started out with, how do you engage people with Alzheimer's disease and having raised beds and letting them be able to garden. I mean, it was a really very simple conversation. And from there, it came out that over in Europe, a lot of what they do is they start the kids gardening in school so that they have a respect for plants and for what they're putting in their bodies. And it just is part of their normal life to watch plants grow and to eat them. And I thought, what a healthy way to look at things. But I think that there does need to be some kind of shift, especially here in the U.S., in terms of our respect for food and looking at things in a different light in terms of how things can affect us and what we put in our body. I believe does. And, I surely don't have all the answers, but I think there's so much more education that would be worthwhile for all of us to take the time.
Lori, Oh, sorry. I was to mention, you mentioned Europe, and Hanne could probably answer this better than I can, but I know when I was over in Europe, they're so much more advanced than we are. People, they don't put preservatives in foods at all. People go out and shop almost on a daily basis to get their fresh foods and breads and everything. They bring their own bags with them. They bring their own bags with them to the store.
Right.
Everything.
Right.
They're just so much far advanced in the health area than we are. They go and they have breakfast. They have breakfast and dinner out on the porch or whatever outside their house because it's very relaxing. They go out for walks in the morning and in the evening, and it's just so much more laid back than it is here.
Yeah, and they're
everything
much
is
more
much here.
Yeah. Well, they're much more community focused, and and to me that's just a huge critical piece of the pie too. Is we don't put importance on engagement and the community aspect, that social aspect in terms of our life, and I think that is really a big disjustice. I mean, you look at the Dan Buettner and the Blue Zone and all the studies that have been done around living longer and healthier, and it's just very, very interesting how different parts of the world do things different. And when it's like one big puzzle. When you put them all together, it's kind of shocking the difference that it can make. Because it really is just a life puzzle that has to be analyzed, and we're not doing that. We're just, for whatever reason.
Well, I also believe that we have to ask ourselves this question: how important is it to you to be well? I mean, if it's not number one on your list, I mean, some people might think it's not that important until they experience things. For instance, yesterday, where I work, so this gentleman, this couple came in, and it was an elderly couple, and the gentleman had he believed he was diabetic, but he also had macular degeneration. So he wanted to get something for his eyes. So his wife, who could barely walk, who had lots and lots of health issues, so I showed them, what they could get. And so he said, okay, I'll take this. I said, well, you and your wife can both take this. She said, oh, no. She said, I don't have macular degeneration. I don't need to take that. Well, just looking at her, she looked to me like she was in very bad shape. I said, but you don't really want to wait until you're diagnosed with it. I said, it doesn't mean you're going to be diagnosed with it, but the thing is, why not prevent it? And I guess sometimes this is a thing I don't really understand, why so many, and I mean many, many people, they wait until the doctor says, oh, you got such and such. Why don't you prevent it, I mean,
especially
that's
if you know
really
if it runs in your family, if it's genetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Sharon, you had actually talked about a little bit about diabetes and Alzheimer's. Actually, nearly 21 million Americans in the United States have diabetes, which is, of course, a disease that makes the body less able to convert sugar to energy. And out of that 21 million Americans, more than 6 million of the people don't even know that they have it. So it's mostly it's lack to, like Sharon had mentioned, lack of exercise, being overweight, and when diabetes is not controlled and too much sugar remains in the blood over time, that means that can actually damage the organs, including the brain. So high blood sugar causes actually inflammation, and again, this can damage the brain cells. There was also a study done about people that had Alzheimer's. Some got what we call the sugar pills, and I think it was 88 people they've done a study on, and they found that most of the people that had the beginning of Alzheimer's, one of the main things they had cravings about, they absolutely wanted to have sugar. Okay? Well, everybody, I guess, likes sugar. It's kind of craving. It makes you feel good. It gives you quick energy. But sugar is actually a drug. It is a poison. And we don't think about it as that, but it really is. And the reason it's poison because it does so much damage to the body. And so I kind of just want to
And there's so many sugars in all your foods. I mean, like potatoes, carrots, peas, all of them have even natural sugars in them. So you really don't need to add more sugar to your breakfast cereal and everything else,
Right, exactly.
And then what about now B12 deficiency is important too?
Yeah, oh yeah, B12. Well, B12, of course, is the stress vitamin, so B12 is any time person has any adrenal fatigue, any type of issues with stress, B12, like, people go to the doctor and get a vitamin B shot, which, of course, would be the one that probably works the best. But yes, most people need to take B12. But if you take a good diet and you do that juice again, as I talked about, and you just really make sure that you have at least, the perfect diet is really to have at least 6 servings. Okay, a serving is half a cup. 6 servings of vegetables and 3 servings of fruit. Of course, if you're diabetic, you want less fruit. You want more vegetables. Even 9 servings of vegetables. How many people get 9 servings or 6 servings or 3 servings? Very few. How do I know that? Because on all my consultations, I always ask a person, tell me, what is a typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And, it would just shock you to hear what the average person who thinks they're in fairly good health, what their daily diet is. Not a good thing. So it's like the lady that said, you know what, I had a salad last week, and it didn't do me any good. No, 1 salad is not going to cure you, and 20 donuts are not going to kill you either. But over the long run, 365 days a year, if you do one or the other, it will do one or the other. So that's what we call that sickness. So, I wish there would be a way to just get people to be excited about their health. I mean, you know how wonderful it is to get up in the morning and you feel wonderful and you're looking forward to what is today going to bring. But if you get up and you have aches and pains and you feel sick, it's difficult to have that attitude, right? So, but it's possible. So we should all have a passion about being well. And it is possible if we're willing to put a little effort into it.
And one thing I'd like to bring up too, Hanne, that we didn't talk about is the importance of water for inflammation. And it should be purified water, not something you drink out of your faucet that's loaded with chemicals that cleans the water. So
actually, Sharon, I tell you, go ahead. Sharon, I was going to say that. Yes, electrolyte. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's a good idea to get, if you can get purified water or any water that you can have electrolytes added to it, or like Smart Water, I know already has it in it. So there's some products out that already have it, but it's important to have. Is it like 6 glasses of water a day? Sometimes they go by your weight. So.
Yeah. Here's the thing. That actually I have studied a lot about water because so much, it can be very confusing. One person say this, one person say that. So what I have for my study, I found that the very best water you can get is distilled water. However, distilled water is also what we call dead water, meaning that there are no minerals in there, but it's the purest form of water. So the ideal thing is to have distilled water and add your electrolyte, as you talked about, Sharon, to have your minerals added to it. Now you've got pure water, and you have added the things that we're taking out of the water by distilling it. That is the number one water to drink.
And it does
in my opinion, in my study.
And it does so many things. It supports your immune function. It alkalizes the body. It helps your digestion, promotes healing. It clears your skin. And also, if you add a little bit of lemon to it, it's high in antioxidants, your vitamin C. So lemons or limes or whatever. But, I've heard before that it's always best to drink pure water, plain water. So
yes. And actually for the people that have low blood pressure, like myself, one way that you can get your blood pressure higher, I know most people want their blood pressure lower, but to get your blood pressure higher is to drink more water. Simple like that.
Really? That shocks me.
Yeah.
That really,
you can
really
actually check it out. You can Google it. You can look it up. And that's
it
what it
reduces
is.
Respiratory infections for people who have asthma and all sorts of things. It's just wonderful. And it's cheap.
It really is.
Yeah. Now, when you talked about Smart Water, because, you go down the grocery store and there's just all different types. How do you know you're getting the right water anymore?
I always buy Smart Water, so I know I'm getting that. But I'm sure they carry that all over. But it'll say things on the side of the bottle. Hanne, you could probably explain a little bit about about the electrolyte. What ones that they're required in water?
Well, the electrolyte is just very, our body is made from minerals, so we need to feed our body, minerals. So that's just, as far as really going into detail with that, I don't know if I'm really qualified for that other than I know of the importance. The minerals are actually more important to you than vitamins, simply because our body is made from minerals.
Yeah, you can read my book about it.
Yeah,
all about minerals and the deficiencies.
And I even made a CD on it too. So,
But a lot of it is the minerals. The important ones are like your magnesium and potassium, which are ones that are usually the electrolytes that are in the water.
Yeah. But you also have to be careful not to get too much potassium. See? So sometimes people come and say, can I take all I want? Just because something is good, even water, there have been people that died because they drank too much water. Excess is not good. There was just one thing that just came because this topic is about Alzheimer's, and because we have not talked about this, it is something to consider to have a hair analysis done to determine the levels of aluminum in the body, okay? I certainly recommend, I tell everyone, please, and don't give it to somebody else, get rid of all aluminum pots and pans. Throw them away, okay?
Because, foods absorb that, yes.
Absolutely.
Absorbs all that copper, everything.
That's right. If you, for instance, have a pan of one of those pans and there's a scratch on there, which is very easy, if you make eggs or whatever, actually that aluminum will come up through that, that scratch. So you need to have either glass or stainless steel. There's no two ways about it. And as far as most people have microwave oven, I can tell you that if you put your food in microwave oven, it is now called cooked dead food. It means that all the vitamins and minerals has been destroyed by using a microwave oven. So
now they just did a study on that, Hanne, and they said that that they're changing their tune on that now. That it doesn't destroy everything like they thought it would. And I don't know.
Okay, so can I tell my little quick story about that? I will tell you a quick story, which I think will kind of, unless they have something brand new. But as far as the research, I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was this lady. She was a nurse in the hospital. This is a true story. And this lady, she went to the hospital and she needed to have a blood transfusion. What they normally do in the hospital, they have the blood in a cooler, to keep it cold. Okay, then they will take it out, and they will usually, before they give it to the patient, they will put it under their arm or leg just to kind of warm it up a little bit before they give it to the patient. Well, this new nurse, what she did was she thought, well, we don't have to wait for that. Well, I'm just going to put it in a microwave. And she did. They gave the blood to the patient. The patient died. Now, you're not going to die because you put your food in a microwave oven, because that is not your only source of food that you have. But this particular patient, she needed this blood, and everything was killed by putting it in a microwave oven. So the fact speaks. So unless they've come up with something new, I personally would never use a microwave oven.
Okay, the new thing is that if and heating at a high level does kind of destroy the nutrients, but if you do it at a low temperature with less water, and that would be less amount of nutrients lost. So you're putting it in for a shorter amount of time. So you and I don't agree with
this, Sharon. That's okay.
No, I do agree with you. I agree with you the fact that at higher temperatures it kills it off. But what the research is saying, that if you cook it at a lower temperature for a shorter amount of time with less water, there's less nutrients are lost. That's what the new study has done.
But isn't most people in a hurry? Do you think most people would use the low temperature? The reason for a microwave oven is one reason, and that is it's fast. It's now. People are in a hurry. I need it now. If you wanted to have it on a low, then you can get it just as quickly by spending $5 on one of those little, what is it called? It's kind of like, looks like a little flour thing. You put it in a double boiler. You put your vegetables over there.
Yeah.
Steamer, thank you.
But I think they were talking about defrosting, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sorry. I have to stick to mine, so I'm sorry. But that's
I think
okay.
They're talking
we
about
don't have to agree on everything.
Lose it, though.
I just don't believe in a microwave oven, period. You can use it for two things. You can use it to heat up water because it doesn't destroy anything, and you can use it if you eat popcorn. But to me, no other things. But that's just my opinion.
Popcorn's not even good for you now.
No, it isn't. So you shouldn't eat it.
I guess it's good for heating up coffee and tea.
Well, you shouldn't have the coffee either.
You just think of all the things in the air. I mean, with the microwave and the cell phones, and then you look at our genetically, changed foods. I mean, there's so many factors, and there probably isn't just one answer in terms of what's affecting our body.
Right.
And then add on these crazy lifestyles of, we've got to be totally psychotic and busy every minute of the day, and we wonder why we're exhausted and not feeling good. And, I just think it's time that we have to really look at life differently and get more educated and slow down,
one thing
going away. People's lifestyle.
There's one way to do that, and that's simply. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No,
Sharon.
I'm just saying it's people's lifestyles have changed so much, and they all want the fast foods or want to heat something up fast, get it done quickly. Because of, you used to work on a farm, you had plenty of time, but now with the way people live, it's just our food and our lifestyles, and you can see it in people's health.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people would just learn to take one day at a time, not the past, not the future, today, the present, and just live that day to the fullest and do the best that you can. People are too, either they haven't let go of the past or they are too worried about the future. You don't even know if you have tomorrow, right? It's not guaranteed. So that leaves us one day, this present day. And one day, I think a person can handle one day. And if you live your life that way, you're not going to have all the stress and you're not going to have all the worries because you do the best that you can today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
right?
That's not at all how, there's just so much pressure in this world to live up to standards. And even when we were talking about going through fast foods, I mean, people just, it's not even just about saving time on cooking, then we just wolf it down. I mean, we don't even chew our food and enjoy it anymore.
And you don't even sit together
that is another thing.
As a family.
Mm-hmm.
You just spoke of something actually very important, Lori, and that is because people are not digest. A lot of people have issues with their digestion. Going back to Europe, I don't know how it is now, but I know when I lived there, people do not drink liquid with their foods. You notice if you go to a restaurant or you go somewhere, the first thing, what are you going to have to drink? For me, I'm not going to have anything to drink because I'm not all of a sudden, excuse me for a second, I'm not all of a sudden thirsty just because I'm going to eat. It's kind of a bad habit to drink liquid with your meal because think about this. You put food in your mouth, you're supposed to chew it, but what happens is you have the liquid and you just kind of do a few chews and then you just swallow it down with whatever liquid, and therefore you're not chewing it. It's a good idea to train yourself not to have liquid with your meals. You can have it half an hour before or half an hour after, but never with your meal.
Wow, do I do that wrong?
So you want to take your probiotics the first thing in the morning and wait at least a half an hour before you have your breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And that, or take a probiotic or your digestive enzymes. What do you think about digestive enzymes, Hanne?
Oh, digestive enzymes. The thing is, most people that are over age 40 have a lack of HCl, which means hydrochloric acid, which means that they actually don't digest the foods. So when you get a digestive enzyme, make sure, if you're past 40 or 45, make sure you get one that has the hydrochloric acid. And you want to make sure you have one where it digests your protein, your carbohydrate, your starches that you eat on a daily basis. That's very important. Don't just get an inexpensive enzyme because it's not going to do the job. You want one that, and you can go wherever you shop and ask them about that. But I call digestive enzyme a little cheat pill because it's kind of doing the job for you, but that's a good thing. But if we would eat the way we're supposed to, and most of us don't, meaning chewing our foods and not drinking liquid with our meals, we would not have all of these issues with digestion.
Now, you brought up about people taking HCl or hydrochloric acid. If they're highly acidic, wouldn't that cause a problem? So maybe they should use plant enzymes instead?
Yeah, but here's the thing. A lot of people do not. They think they have too much acid. But, of course, it's something you have to find out about yourself. But a lot of people actually do not have enough acid in their body to digest the food. It might be surprising to you, but that is a fact.
So what's important about all these enzymes, Lori, is the fact that if you're not digesting your foods properly, then you're going to get inflammation again in your digestive tract. So, and as you, like Hanne pointed out, as you get older, you lose your enzymes or your ability to digest foods correctly. So you become, in your food you're eating, if they're highly acidic or anything like that, can cause a big problem with your digestion, which again causes more inflammation.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. I'd like to just kind of do a summary here, and what I'm interested in is in terms of foods that people should have, in their house, just kind of their basic staples. Do you have some basic staples that you just think are critical that people should be eating every single day? And Hannah, I'm going to throw that out to you.
Well, okay, so if we are talking about particularly, are you talking about for everybody or particularly Alzheimer's?
For
everybody?
For Alzheimer's and dementia, yeah.
Alzheimer's, yeah. So ginger has been proven in Europe. That's one of the number one thing that they use, ginger. I would say ginger, turmeric would be probably my two top products to have in the house to use daily. And then again, I would say I would never ask somebody to eat vegetables that they don't like. That wouldn't be right to do so. But I would say find something that you like, but make sure that you have 6 servings, which is a half. So that would be 3 full cups, and it can be frozen or it can be fresh is of course better. But either one.
And you have to allow extra time to heat those up.
Okay, yeah.
What's that?
And then,
you have to allow extra time to heat them up because you can't use your microwave.
Mm-hmm. And would you also
you know how long it takes to steam it? It takes 5 minutes to steam it. So okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Would you also recommend, because you had mentioned earlier, the coconut oil and the cinnamon for memory loss?
Oh yes. Cinnamon is amazing, and also for your blood sugar. Oh, yes, absolutely. Cinnamon is just the only thing I might want to mention. If a person, because so many people take things for their blood sugar, make sure that if you take cinnamon and you take medication, that you check it, because your blood sugar will go down, and therefore you don't want it to be too low.
Okay.
So if you're taking cinnamon, make sure you monitor that with the medication, okay?
Okay, so I should take cinnamon before I go to the doctor if I'm getting my blood pressure checked. Is that it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Right before.
Garlic, yes.
Instead of running
but the thing is, you don't want to be healthy just for the 10 minutes you go to the doctor. You want to be healthy afterwards too, right? So it's a regular thing. It's a thing. It's just like, how important is it to be well? How high do you have that on your list? I have it on the top. Okay, it's essential to me. So so the more important it is, the more a person is going to be willing to say, I'm going to do a little education here. I tell everybody that come to me, I said, you know what? If you have whatever cancer, diabetes, whatever it is, you need to be an expert. So when you come back and see me, you can tell me things. You know more about it than I do, because this is what you are experiencing. Okay? So I'm trying to teach people, you've got to know. You don't have to know all the diseases, but if you or your family have a specific thing, you need to be an expert on that topic. Absolutely. You need to know more than the doctor knows, because remember, most doctors only have an average of 7, maximum 10 minutes with you. That's all the time he has for you. So, how much information can you get in that time? You need to do all that studying, and it is available whether you go to a library, whether you get it on a computer, whether you get a book, but it's available.
Yeah, you have to take charge of your own health.
Yeah.
And that.
I need to go to work very soon, so I need to leave in 2 minutes.
That's fine, because we definitely chatted longer than we had talked. Hannah, if people want to get a hold of you, what is the best route for them to reach you?
Yeah, I have my email, which I have my website where I have my book, but my email is my first and my last name.com, so that is Hanne.Hojsted @gmail.com, and I can spell that. It's HANNE.HOJSTED hojsted@gmail.com. And my website is hannehojsted.com.
Wonderful. And how about you, Sharon? What contact information would you like to give people?
Well, you can reach me through my website. There's a contact information there tab. It's www.mcs for multiple chemical sensitivities. So it's mcs-resources.com.
Okay, wonderful.
And then I was going to mention, too, that my book can be ordered through Amazon and Hanne's can be ordered through lulu.com, if anybody's interested.
Great. And you want to give us the titles of those books again?
My title is... I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sharon.
Go ahead.
Okay. My title is...
Improve Your Health with Minerals is mine.
Yeah, that's
and that's
Sharon
on Amazon.
Yes.
And then
right. And mine is called
ahead.
The Miracle Journey of Love, but it has nothing to do with nutrition. I'm actually having a movie script made as we speak from my book, and it's a very dramatic story. It's a true story from Denmark and Faroe Island, where I lived. And but again, it has nothing to do with nutrition. I will have nutrition books coming up, but right now that's what I have.
And she also has a CD on iridology.
Yeah, on nutrition and iridology, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful. Well, great.
And thank you so much, Lori, for having us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lori.
Well, I'm glad you were both able to make it on the show today, and I found it very interesting. And I think there's just a lot of information that we all have to be aware of in terms of our bodies and inflammation and dementia. You know, I mean, inflammation is just not good no matter where it plants itself and how it can crop up. But if that is another way for us to maybe look at how we can control things, I think that is extremely important for us to be looking at and taking seriously, needless to say. So thank you both for your time today, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye now. I do want to just give people some updates here. I don't have another show after this, so this is kind of our mid-show summary. It'll just be the tail end of the show. But I want to remind you of our last radio show where I had Jackie Poole on from the UK, and she talked about becoming a dementia champion. It was a very enlightening discussion. And then I also had somebody on who was talking about trying to get the NFL to step up to the plate and become dementia friendly. So, go to the main site. It might be a show that you're interested in taking a listen at. Our last dementia chats, we talked about the environment and what kind of environment do people with dementia want to live in if there comes a point in time when they have to leave their home. We talked about the changes in body temperature and how to phrase a question and have a conversation with someone with dementia. Again, we will be having our next dementia chats this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, and noon Pacific time. And you can just go to Dementia Chats on Facebook, or you can go to Alzheimer Speaks, or on the blog. It would be a really easy way to find that as well, too. Since the last radio show a week ago, we really had a lot of great articles on the blog that might be worth taking a peek at. Anything from clothing to, brain function. Is it really lost? To plays that are out. There were several different videos that people really liked a lot. That you might be interested in. And then also, I'm still working with Samsung looking for somebody in the New York area who is a caregiver. We need the person with dementia in the New York, New Jersey area, and to be able to set up some cameras to see if this would help in terms of alleviating some stress for caregivers' roles. So if you're interested in that, please contact me on that, and you can do that through either probably the best way is just go to alzheimerspeaks.com and click on click on the Contact Us button. Our next show will be on the 18th, and we're going to have two great gals there that are going to be talking about, do you need a coach? One is an actual coach. Another one is an occupational therapist who's been tagged the Dementia Queen in terms of assisting you with ideas and the process of engaging with people with dementia. So again, I appreciate your time today. Again, if you haven't liked us or tweeted us or shared us with your LinkedIn group or emailed it, you can also embed these episodes onto your website or wherever to raise awareness. So feel free to do that. Again, if you're looking for an Alzheimer's Association anywhere in the world, you can just go to www.alz.co.uk, and that will get you to Alzheimer's Disease International. And again, I would recommend that you check out Choral Health and their Music First prescription, which is an app, and you can just go to www.corohealth.com. And then again, that trial study on tau is at www.alzheimersstudies.com. So we'll see you on the 18th. Again, I'm going to wrap up with one poem that a friend sent me that I thought was really nice. And I think a lot of us struggle sometimes when we're dealing with dementia and giving care. And this is by Jackson Kennard. I prayed for change, so I changed my mind. I prayed for guidance, and I learned to trust myself. I prayed for happiness, and I realized I am not my ego. I prayed for peace and learned to accept others unconditionally. I prayed for abundance and realized my doubt kept it out. I prayed for wealth and realized it is my health. I prayed for a miracle and realized I am the miracle. I prayed for a soulmate and I realized I am one. I prayed for love and realized it's always knocking, but I have to allow it in. Have a blessed week. Make the change.
It's time to rethink, renew, and reimagine retirement. Hey everybody, Jared Sebesta here, host of Retire Repurposed. Now, this podcast is about the non-financial parts of retirement, which many times can be even more challenging than the financial. We believe retirement is not the end, rather the beginning of what could be the most impactful, purposeful, and fulfilling season of a person's life. So don't retire, become repurposed. To listen now, search Retire Repurposed on your favorite podcast platform, Senior Resource, or Life Audio.